You're doing that. Okay, thank you, Ken. Thank you, Lisa. How wonderful to see all of you this evening. I would like to also welcome each and every one of you. Thank you again for coming. Habib.
And they need the molasses for the.
I think that we need to remind people to turn their mute off. Okay, thank you very much. Habib Ali, who's our president, will join us later on in the program. So in the meantime, I have the honor of delivering this introduction to you all. Let me acknowledge the presence of, many of our old, not old, seasoned readers and some of our new readers. So I'm sure there are people attending who I will not be able to acknowledge you individually, but I want you to know that we are very, very thankful of your presence. And, as Lisa mentioned, if you have any thing you would like to say or comment or let us know that you're in the house, feel free to tell us in the chat because we're not able to see everybody on the one screen. We do have a special someone with us this evening who recently received the Guyana Prize for Literature. So stay tuned for more on this later. I now would like to pause a little to pay tribute to some of our Guyanese poets and writers. The late Sir Wilson Harris, who passed away in England in 2018. He received the Guyana Prize for his work, and he was a Queen's College alumni. The late Martin Carter, whose poetry has been anthologized in many publications, and many of us actually have even read some of his works at our Guyanese Canadian functions here in Toronto, Guyana Festival, and so on. The late Mahaday Das, whose poetry has also been anthologized in many publications. And I'd like to also pay tribute to the late Rajkumari Singh, a poet, dramatist, and activist. And I'm noting also that this year is her birth centenary year. So we remember them, and we remember many more who I'm not able to count them all, but as we go on from time to time, we do try to recognize some of our writers and poets from the land of the many waters. I would now like to briefly reflect upon our journey of the Pakaraima Writers Association. Getting together with fellow poets and writers and friends, meeting either after work or Saturday morning, we would get together, huddle together. So in 2005, when we started the Pakaraima Writers Association, we have met on numerous occasions in cafes, small boardrooms, encouraging one another, poets and writers, on the craft of writing and steps towards publication. How wonderful to know that some of our members have actually published for the first time, having joined our circle. We have held many incredible literary dinners and lunches in restaurants and banquet halls. And let me tell you, we had a lot of fun over those years. We had book tables, we had special keynote readers like Ian MacDonald, Frank Birbal Singh, and a few others. Totally amazing. When COVID-19 came in 2020, we still managed to host an outdoor reading at a friend's huge backyard. Since then, we have been connecting virtually. This has been thoroughly through the ingenuity of none other than our own Habib Ali, who has managed to put us here. So tonight, what you're seeing, Habib has been instrumental in helping to bring us on virtually. And lo and behold, we have poets and writers joining us from Guyana and the wider diaspora. So let's celebrate this evening. And I also just want to take a moment to acknowledge Nancy Rickford, who's with the Bishops School Association, and that association has put on numerous occasions a literary cafe I wasn't able to attend the last one. It was last December, and I'm delighted to know that we will still be able to attend some of those literary cafes. So don't forget to let us know who's in the house in our chat box. Okay, so now we'll start with our first reader, Pitamba Prasad. It is my pleasure to introduce Pitamba of Guyana. He's a gentleman who I have known for many years and whose work in the literary arena continues to inspire. And now I'd like to read introduce Pitamba to you. Pitamba is an enabler of Guyanese literature, television producer, literary activist, and events coordinator. Pitamba is the author of an introduction to Guyanese literature and the Balgubin saga, among other books. Pitamba has written on Guyana's literary environment in the Guyana Chronicle and Guyana Times, and he has produced many pieces under the title, Preserving Our Literary Heritage. He has also featured writers on his TV program, including Ken Pudukum, Ken Pudukum. And you'll hear from Ken Pudukum as well later. Pitamba continues to write and share his work in different forms, while putting a great emphasis on promoting literature of Guyanese in Guyana and the diaspora. Let's welcome Pitamba. Pitamba, welcome. Over to you.
Hello, good evening, everyone. I'm greeting you from Guyana on a blackout night. I will read a poem called Unity, written by Leela Singh. It is written perhaps in the late 60s, after independence and leading up towards republicanism. The first public acknowledgement of this little-known writer came in 1988 in the bibliography of a book of an anthology, They Came in Ship. And now for the poem. It's called Unity. Some youngsters, all of different races, were talking about weird creatures in places while sitting neath the boughs of an old nar tree. They argued about many things, but all did agree that witches and goblins and ogres and spooks only existed in books. From neath the root of the tree, where she'd been dozing for years, the old hag awoke and pricked up her ears. She snuggled closer, the better to hear, as the boys chattered on of her unaware. They said they did not believe in little Baku, whose hobby it was to pelt bricks at you. He liked to count Dutch money way deep on the ground, and without permission, shift furniture around. The boys scoffed at the hinterland's massacre man, such a hideous sight. When he arose from the water, people scattered in fright. Of those vague, mumbling jumble, they loudly declared they could not imagine how anyone can be so scared. The old creature sniggered softly. Human beings were queer. They could describe you in details, yet deny you were there. But wickedness is universal and lurks in all mankind. Its shape is imagined by the eye of the mind. The boys spoke about her now, so she crept still closer by. And in concentration, she squinted her rainbow-hued eye. Now, this white-clad old lady, whom everyone did admire, until suddenly she changed into a whirling ball of fire. She could back into her skin with barely a halt, which could only be destroyed by a good dash of salt. Her voice was squeaky, like a rusty old bike, her hair like bushfowl, and nose like a spike. The old hag giggled at all she heard said, rubbing her boulanger-like nose and her bald, patchy head, each patch the color of a different race, which together held a brain full of wickedness tightly in place. So she was so tickled, her loud crackle shook the ground. It made those boys jump and looked around. They felt terrible uneasy, though they loudly did boast. They were not afraid of any boogie or ghosts. But if they did exist and were anywhere near, let them come out now if they dare to appear. Old High acknowledged, and with a wide, wicked grin, she quickly shed her wrinkled old skin. Then, changing into a fierce fireball, she hurled herself amongst them. She sent sparks flying to the left and right, giving those poor youngsters a most terrible fright. She scorched their nose and singed their ears. She hurt them so much she stung them to tears. But she did not know, to in her frenzied fun, that the boys warned each other to stay put and not to run. So bravely those young fellows stood their ground until the fire burned out with a hissing sound. The boys had planned their defense as fast as they could, for soon Haig returned. They knew she would, but it took them all their willpower not to run, for in her skin she was horribly hideous to look upon. The creature sidled up crabwise and just stood and leered. Never in their lives had those boys been so scared. Then she jeeringly croaked that it was not her fault that none of them had thought of to bring any salt. So she kicked and pinched and scratched till they were soaking wet as their teardrops mingled slowly with beads of their sweat. But she was badly out of practice and was really getting old. For again, she did not wonder why those chaps were so bold. Instead, they crowded so close she could hardly move at all. She tried to push them away, which was her downfall. For as soon as she touched them, she knew that through her own fault, she brought on the sweat and tears, which were awfully salt. She tried to escape what she most feared and hated, but with a whispering cry, she disintegrated. At first, stunned, the boys stared in disbelief. Then they all drew a shuddering sigh of relief. They went their way homewards, arm on shoulders entwined, leaving the ancient tree and Mynheer Baku behind. For tired of counting money, he had come up for some air when he spotted those youngsters who were still a bit near. So he picked up some small brick off the ground and aimed to pelt them as he felt duty bound. But the tree's warning rustle stayed his hand, as she knew that against trouble they took a firm stand. For no matter they were of different color skins and different races, with different hair and different shaped faces, she herself had witnessed how they stood shoulder to shoulder. They outwitted the hag who was so much wiser. The puzzled, pint-sized chappie scratched his nut-brown head as he listened closely to all the tree said. Then, in a surprisingly heavy guttural tongue, he inquired to what nation did these boys belong. Rustling softly, stirred by the gentle evening breeze, the old tree whispered, "They are all Guyanese." Thank you very much.
Thank you, Patamber. That was wonderful. I really enjoyed the variety of symbolism in the poem that speak to unity. And I really enjoyed that poem. Thank you. And you said it's by Leela Singh? Lila Singh?
Leela
Patamba?
Singh.
Leela
Leela
Singh.
Singh. Uh-huh.
Yeah. And any more poems from you, Patamba?
No, that's it for the evening.
Okay, thank you, Patamber. You know, Patamber, when I come to Guyana, you're the first person I'm coming to see. Okay, we are going to move along now. And well, it is my pleasure to introduce Lisa Fremantle. Before I introduce Lisa, I would like to mention that James Richmond was going to join us this evening, and he had something urgent that came up. And unfortunately, he will not be able to join us. And of course, we'll be missing his reading. As you know, James is a very passionate reader, and we've really enjoyed his poetry. So we hope we will have him another time. So Lisa, it is my pleasure to introduce Lisa to you. Lisa is a poet, writer, and she's a composer. She has written several books, including Words for the Journey series for teachers and school liturgies made easy. Besides writing poetry and prose, Lisa also composes songs and has released a number of CDs. Lisa was educated at Havergal College in Toronto. She has completed a BSc in biology with a music minor from Queen's University, as well as a master's in molecular biology and biochemistry from York University. Lisa also has a BA in education with a specialty in science and music from the University of Toronto. Lisa's poetry has been recently published in the Pakaraima anthology, Scaling New Heights 2022. And her first collections, also 2022, but that's the Pakaraima anthology there, published by Middle Road Publishers. Lisa has also published her own first book of poems, and there she has her book. And I have a copy too. It's called Taste My Words. And Lisa is a member of the Pakaraima Association. So welcome, Lisa.
Thank you. So this is my book, Taste My Words. And the way the book has been divided up is into sections of different types of poetry. And generally at these sort of events, I share poetry that would probably go into the We Are We section, which is kind of universal poetry. But I've had a number of requests to do a different poem. And so I'm going to read from this book, a story poem. Now, by way of introduction, first of all, the story is called The 7 Deadly Sins. And by way of introduction, in the 6th century, so a long time ago, strict Roman Catholic theology, there were 7 deadly sins. And the 7 deadly sins were the 7 behaviors, the modes of conduct, actions, feelings that humans engaged in that would lead to further sin. And these sins are pride, envy, greed, lust, gluttony, sloth, and wrath. So this poem, The 7 Deadly Sins, is about a person who knocks on the door of heaven to get in, but is held back by the 7 deadly sins personified. Sparks your imagination. I hope it will spark your imagination, and I hope you enjoy my poem. 7 Deadly Sins. I'm at the end. It's going to be okay. Here we go. I knocked on the door of heaven, so I could get inside. The gates were gilded golden when unsealed would open wide. But as I waited to step through for my holy home to claim, I heard voices behind me calling out my name. There were 7 stood in rear of me, calling out my woe, and until I faced and answered each, forward I could not go. Their hands locked on my shoulder. Now I was kept in place. They smiled such evil grins at me, and grips would not unlace. First faced I starched and haughty pride, with nose upturned aloft, who spoke, "You have been in my court, not rarely, but of oft. The devil rules because of me and invites me there to dine, for thinking that your superior makes you surely mine." As I heard those prideful words, my heart was steeped in shame. I recognized some selfishness within my feeble frame. So I tipped my cup in humility and thus accepted my fate. But that kindness now within my heart meant love was there, not hate. Pride's hand loosened I in grip, gasping in dismay, then turned to leave without a glance and stiffly walked away. Next, envy in green silken suit said, tightening up hands hold, "You've despised your neighbor's feats. Of this I have been told. You wished misfortune on your friend so you could rise above, and smiled a fakeness sweetie smirk, pretending you felt love." Well, I have been jealous of my peers, begrudging their high goals, and I admit my lofty aims meant raking them o'er the coals. But truly remorseful am I now, and I do wish them well. They will attain much greater heights. This to envy did I tell. So envy backed away from me, not liking what I'd said, and now 5 remained holding me in that realm of dead. "'Tis I," announced a voice in back, "don't leave me now, my friend." And I saw the sin of gluttony with corpulent arm extend. Said glutton, "You've often overindulged when others had none. You ate and never stopped until it all was done." Wasted food, I do concede, and sometimes I wouldn't share. But there were times I know that I gave grub to who was there. You cannot say I always gorged and consumed far too much. Be gone now, please. Vacate this place. Release me from your touch. As gluttony portly lumbered way, tighter did those now left grip. Those 4 now were making sure their clutches would not slip. I knew who then addressed me from greed's yellow beady eye. "Your avarice meant you wanted things. It did not matter why. You hoarded, stole, and kept accounts. No portion did you allot to those around you, and especially for those who have not." I do agree, for much my life I ignored those in need. But before I came into this place, I recognized my greed. So I donated much material wealth to the wretched poor. I pray that they can use these gifts and more easily endure. Greed's eyes flashed dully at my words and spoke of nothing more. 3 left to face, 3 left to fear, 3 left blocking the door. A silky, slinky hand oozed up my back and to my fevered brow. Lust whispered in a sultry tone, "Are those longings intense now? For you desired caress the flesh. To deny this is in vain. So come with me and let us be free to couple once again." Well, I do admit that in my life, my thoughts have been impure. I did partake in younger years more amply, I'm sure. But as I aged, my wisdom grew, and gaining high regard for the sanctity of the act. Resisting you is not hard. Now at my word, lust's wandering limbs did slither from my form. Coldly rebuked now, exited, no longer hot or warm. The sluggish intonation from the sin of sloth was heard. Both physically and mentally, you were idle. That's the word. disinclination to even move. Yes, you were indolent. With nothing done, you'd sit and wonder where the hours went. 'Tis true that some laborious occupations I did shirk. There certainly were moments when I avoided work, but those were few. Most instances, my nose was to the grind. Industrious, creative are the terms I have in mind. At sloth's plodding departure, I was close to my desire. But the one remaining, sin of wrath, I greatly feared the ire. Wrath's sizzling temper, blistering rage would burn me, this I knew. Dare you, cried wrath, deny your fiery nature through and through. You scalded souls with anger. You burned and stormed your friends. You broiled and boiled and speared and seared means justified your ends. Crestfallen, racked with guilt, this was valid, this was real. Wrath, I beg you understand, forgiveness now is what I feel. Have patience, for I am a sinner. Now soothe my thunderous heat. No more seething, but pacifying, graced forbearance is so sweet. I tightly shut my eyes and listened for the frenzied, cruel retort, for I knew that livid wrath to deserved hell me would transport. But when I dared peep to view my anguish, I perceived bright light instead. As I marveled in awe and wonder, comprehension reached my head. I was through the gates in paradise. I had knocked and now I was in, because I had faced and answered honestly to each and every sin. God is mercy, God is love, full of compassion and of care. I smiled and walked in heaven. I was content to just be there. Thank you. Very different from what I usually read. I know.
Lisa, that was unbelievable. I feel as though I'm witnessing this poem being performed on stage. And I enjoyed the Seven Deadly Sin immensely. So I'm sure people will agree that it was a very passionate and a very spiritual poem. And God is mercy. And Heaven's Gate opened and wow, that's unbelievable. No more sins. Thank you, Lisa. I have a copy of your book, and I started reading it. It's called Eat My Words, and it was
words.
just released by Middle Road Publishers.
Not eat,
And
taste.
It's on Amazon.
Yes. Okay, I'm going to introduce the next speaker, who is Janet. Janet Naidoo is a poet, writer, and educator. She's published 3 poetry collections, Winged Heart, I love that title, Winged Heart, Rainwater, and Sacred Silence, which I have. Her first book, Winged Heart, was shortlisted for the Guyana Prize for Literature in 2000, poetry. Her poetry has also been published in the University of West Indies Journal for Women's Study, as well as anthologies. Many of her poems include themes of migration, settlement, identity, and more. She's also written biographies and short stories. Janet works in human resources management, most specifically in leadership strategies and training on equity, diversity, and inclusion. Janet has a BA in Political Science and Caribbean Studies from the University of Toronto and an LLB from the University of London, UK. Janet is the founder of the Pakaraima Association.
Thank you for those kind words, Lisa. I'm going to try my best to read. I'm going to read a few poems from this collection called Rainwater. And actually, I painted it for the cover. It's a little house with a barrel. Okay, here goes. This poem, I thought that I would read this poem to bring about a little bit of recognition of the diversity, or at least some diversity of our Guyanese heritage. It's called Baigan Choka. And as some of you know, Baigan is eggplant in Canada and balange in Guyana and baigan in certain quarters. So here we go. You know, day and night, many faces of home, no matter where in the world we roam. Like hibiscus in summer, tulips in spring, you bask in the sun and prepare for morning. Close your eyes and hold my hand across miles and miles of rice land. Never thought decades of orientation with changing seasons and a subway station. Would I long for something of old days, of schoolyard play and frolicking ways? Bring me some fish and chips and cheese and bun, but don't forget the roti and baigan choka on the run. You embrace many hearts in our homestead, in flags of the maple leaf and the golden arrowhead. So you complain of cold winter or hot summer, but take trips back and forth to your familiar harbor. We are in this canoe together, our quest for harmony. We always carry our destiny in our life's journey. Come join the struggle, this long fight for peace, to end violence and make unjust battle cease. On this planet, moving from place to place, relentless and merciful, we share the same space. From gardens to city streets, we comb the landscape. We know now, no matter where we go, we cannot escape. Okay, the next poem I wrote, I want to recognize Black History Month for this month, February. And although sometimes we want to say, let's look at achievements today, I believe that we also need to look at history, because history is a part of where we've come from and where we are and where we might be going. This one is called My Last Gaze at the Atlantic. I hear the sound of chains, lower deck and upper deck, cramped. In the night, 2 more bodies overboard. Bidders in boats hold long whips. I search for echoes of your parting voice and find your strong arms in my veins. Island to island, bare backs and swollen feet move faster than thunderous waves. My body and my soul and my spent hands under the hardened cot. I keep things hidden for the night. I hear you whisper my name across the field. I know you too are owned and branded, and in unreachable quarters, far from me, I plan secret trips through bramble bush. African songs ring through the night. And this last poem, I wrote this poem in dedicated to my late brother. I should say late because I really don't know, Arnold. And it is a story, a little bit of it goes from 1972, when he and a few young men were leaving Guyana to go to Brazil, Venezuela, and to America. Some of his friends made it to the United States. And sadly, we never heard from him. We've never heard from my brother. So I had started to imagine what might have happened. It's called The Unknown Path. The endless years of a curious path through jungles and borders, with grated walls of another land. Its myriad ways, very much confusing, chaining you down. Coconut boats hurriedly fill the sound of thunder in a dark forest. Heavy boots of paramilitaries near a guarded gate. keep us from the impossible surge while pressing us against the wired fence of our only chance for a hopeful horizon. I grip your hand near me, moving through tunnels of darkness, out of the chains that held you captive inside maddening walls. The reason for leaving home, visions of betterment anywhere. Even other young men who hardly knew the corners of their villages, who barely understood dark roads across distant lands, but who always watched the sun rising in the rhythm of their fathers cutting cane, found a way out in nightly escape. I long for this miracle. How will I know that path? I once dreamed I saw you, regrets and longing in your eyes, to be rescued. And then I saw layers of the rainforest. Have the decades of unknown whereabouts lengthened far too long? Who will find the footprints? How do I know your name now? Thank you.
Wow. That's beautiful. The first one was making me hungry. Your descriptions there of all the different food. I was going, oh my goodness. And the second one, wow, with the describing the slaves on the boat, heart-wrenching, actually. And so was the last one. Very emotional for your brother. I wonder what happened to him. And yeah, that was beautiful. They're beautiful. Thank you very much. Those were lovely. Lovely, Janet. Our next reader is Ray Williams. Ray is an author, photographer, woodcarver, and traveler whose work has been published in TripAdvisor. He is a member of the writers community in Durham region, where he won first prize in their competition for his story, The Last Leaf of Autumn. He has written over 40 short stories and 28 poems. Ray retired from his career in the Ontario Public Service and had served on numerous committees for law enforcement, immigration, and correctional services. Ray is a member of the Pakaraima Writers Association. Ray, you're on. Remember to unmute. You're mute. You have to unmute.
Could you hear me now?
Now we can hear you. Perfect.
Okay. Thank you, and hello to everyone. My first poem is called The Sea Walls, and it's one that I've been thinking of writing for years now. And it was I was encouraged when I heard James Richmond's Sea Walls in Scaling New Heights, and that made me want to do it more often. It's a remembrance of my youthful days in Guyana, when the seawall meant so much to us teenagers at the time. And it says, I've stood here for centuries and more, along Georgetown's northern face, baked in the sun and drenched in the rain, like a constant and loyal sentinel, shielding my beloved garden city against the Atlantic's mighty waves. Dutch settlers first built me in the turbulent 1880s, seeking empire against their marauding European rivals. And being mindful of our low-lying villages and terrain across our vast and verdant land, dug lengthy canals and erected wooden cocas to abide the deluge that was sure to come. Next came the wretched slave ships, for months crossing the hazardous Middle Passage, overburdened with Mother Africa's stolen children, longing for home, sick, dying, and soon thrown to the sharks, to later land on our mysterious South American shores and labor long and hard on their master's whip. I watched for days fleets of British tall ships approaching on the far horizon, their red, white, and blue Union Jack flags flapping in the tropical winds. With cannons roaring and swords a flashing, the proud conquerors later charged ashore, to triumphantly proclaim sovereignty over their newly found British Guyana, not for a month nor a year, but for centuries yet to come. In time, East Indian and Chinese indentured servants arrived on the promise of a better life by their British overlords, replacing years later the liberated African slaves who, with sun-blistered backs, bruised hands, and bloodied feet, had for generations toiled endlessly in our fertile fields of sugarcane and rice. They built a road alongside me to frame my lengthy body of stone, from Kitty Village in the east to the shores of Kingston in the west, but no sparkling white beaches to adorn me, where my people could bathe and play. Just mud-strewn fields, crawling crabs, and silt remain today. Many a Sunday afternoon, large crowds gathered around me, enjoying the music of our police concert band, while young men would ride their bicycles up and down the main road, whistling and waving at pretty young ladies who sat resplendent in their frilly Sunday dresses, gazing this way and that, yet pretending not to notice them. At nighttime, in the darkest stretches of my lengthy wall, romantic couples enjoying the sea view and fresh air lay discreetly snuggled on top of me. And while answering the urgent call of nature, in rhythm with the coming and going of the pounding waves, many future generations were no doubt conceived to follow likewise in the former footsteps of their daring parents. I'm most popular, however, on Easter Monday mornings, when the sky is abuzz with rainbow-colored kites, their various shapes and sizes swaying high in the brisk wind. With strings held tightly in happy competitors' hands, the bullies soon maneuver their big kites to collide into smaller ones, sending them spinning and crashing to the ground. Tears might be shed afterwards, and fights may even break out. But by sunset, all would be forgiven and forgotten, as smiling faces hurry home telling tales of their fun day well spent. Today, however, I watch with grave concern Mother Nature's dreaded climate change, seeing rising tides growing higher and higher. And although I stand some 6 feet tall, 10 feet wide, stretching 280 miles along the northern coastline of Guyana, I fear I can no longer stop the tsunami-like waves from washing over me and threatening to drown my people, scurrying to higher ground. I've noticed they're drilling for oil these days, beyond our northern shore, to enrich our poor nation, they say, but at what cost? For where once was brown and green could soon become gooey black, and gone will be the sea life that always sustained us. There'll be no Sunday afternoon police band playing, no boys riding bicycles and pretty girls watching, no discreet couples nightly lovemaking. I really don't know how much longer I could endure these overwhelming ravages, as I've done for centuries thus far. But I know for sure, like a true and loyal sentinel, be it tsunami, earthquake, oil spill, or drought, I'll stand my ground for my beloved garden city, welcoming countless sunsets and sunrises until that fateful day, my last stone should crumble. That's the seawalls. And a quick Kayatur Falls. I can't hear you.
That was beautiful.
Thank you.
Makes me go back to my childhood days.
All right, I'm back here. Can you hear me again?
Okay.
Oh, there we go.
Yes, okay.
I was just saying I didn't grow up there. So
Oh.
for me, that was a wonderful description, and sad that things will change. Well, as I guess they always do, but that was beautiful, beautifully written.
Thank you. Quick one, Kayatur. We heard your mighty roar from fields afar, enticing us to seek your grandeur. Around the bend, the ancient trail led as we trudged through your lush green canopy. And forging past the final clearing, you reveal your beauty for all to see. We stood where many had been before, lost in awe of your enduring splendor. Spellbound within your liquid embrace, we gazed as you drew us yet closer. Don't go too near the edge, we warned. That's a mere 8 seconds below. Captivated, we stayed and stared with eyes of smiling and hearts aflutter as your water gods danced their endless dance. Kohler brung, your essence tumbled thousands of gallons in an instant they went, colliding on massive black boulders below, from where your lively spirits in clouds of rainbow brilliance did rise and dance even more. You snaked your flowing body down the rapid Potaro River, ever twisting and turning through flora and fauna, longing for the faraway coast. No time to stop, forever seeking, your gods eternally showing the way. Another twist, yet another turn, one final thrust when all was but spent, and waiting to greet you at the end of your quest, the motherly arms of the wide Atlantic Ocean. Thank you.
Another great descriptive masterpiece. Well written.
Thank
Beautiful.
you.
The next person who's going to be presenting is Ken. I hope Ken's on. He's been having a little bit of trouble here. I hope you're here. Ken, are you here somewhere? Just making sure.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Okay, just wanted to make sure because I've been seeing you go out and in and out and in on the room there. Ken.
I know the problem is, sorry, the problem is I have my own Zoom account, so it keeps in conflict there all the time.
Okay, I'm going to do a little bit of an introduction for you, okay?
Thank you.
Ken is a retired accountant who lives in Canada. His writings have appeared in several newspapers and literary journals. Ken has published 2 novels, Racing with the Wind and Junta. He has also published a book of poems called Unfathomable and Other Poems. Ken is also the owner of Middle Road Publishers, and last year he published the Pakaraima Writers 2022 anthology. I think I showed that before, which is called Scaling New Heights. Containing poetry and short stories by several of the readers actually who are here tonight. Ken is a member of the Pakaraima Writers Association. I am delighted to share with you exciting news that was announced recently that Ken was awarded and has now received the Guyana Prize for the literature fiction for his collection of short stories, Down Independence Boulevard. I don't have a copy yet, but I'm ordering one. Our heartiest congratulations, Ken. What an amazing honor. You're on.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for the kind words, Lisa. Yes, it was unexpected and an honor to actually go down to Guyana to receive this from the.
I think we need you a bit louder. Can you guys hear?
Okay. Can you hear me now? Louder? How about that?
You're still a little soft there.
Let me see if I can increase. How about that?
Okay, try. Let's hear.
Can you hear me now? Better?
Can the rest of you guys hear? Is it just mine? You? Okay. Yep. Continue.
Okay. Yes, it was an honor to go down to Guyana to receive the award from His Excellency Mark Phillips, the Prime Minister of Guyana. Still can't hear me.
Can you get
I'm not
closer,
sure.
maybe?
Let's see.
If you
Okay.
get closer to the computer, maybe we can hear you.
How about that? Any better?
That's better.
Good.
Speak loud.
Good. Okay. Yes, it was an honor to go down to Guyana to receive the award from His Excellency Mark Phillips, the Prime Minister of Guyana, an unexpected honor. And this collection was published since 2017. So that's 6 years ago. You can imagine how unexpected it is. And I sent it in last year to the competition and didn't really expect any result from it, but lo and behold. there are 16 stories in this collection, and it's pretty hard to select one story to read from. It's, as I've told someone, it's like asking me to select one of my children. It's impossible. So what I've done is I've done an extract from one of the stories, and this story is pretty well the opposite of Janet's story about her brother leaving Guyana. This is about someone yearning to go back to Guyana. It's called You Can Never Go Home, and it's about money.
Okay, I think people are still having trouble hearing you.
Well, I'm not sure what I can do to fix that, Lisa.
I'm just seeing people holding their ears. We want to be able to hear this. Our award winner in our midst.
No. Oh, but then, no.
That's
Any
it.
different? Oh, good. I'd had the wrong microphone turned on.
There we go.
Good, good, terrific. So the story is called You Can Never Go Home. It's an extract from it. It's not the entire story. It would be too long. And as I was saying, it's the exact opposite of Janet's poem about her brother, Arnold, who was desperately trying to leave Guyana during those turbulent years. This one is about someone trying to return to Guyana, who's always had the love of returning to Guyana. And again, it's called You Can Never Go Home. It's an extract. And this is it. Excuse me. Of course, that was long before you kids were born, Money said. He reached over for the wine decanter and filled his glass. And we'd be having ginger beer or sorrel drink instead of wine. Garlic pork as a side dish. Black cake for dessert instead of apple pie. Yes, sir, those were the days. His son Marv sucked his teeth. Money looked at him and frowned. Money continued. Later on Christmas Day, we'd wander over to the neighbor and partake of their food and have a drink. As we grew older, we graduated to high wine or rum. Money sighed. Can't wander over to the neighbors today. Too damn cold. Too much snow outside. It's happening right now, actually. Besides, how many people do you really know living in the street anyhow? And even if you did know them, do you think you can hop over and have a drink with them? They would think you're gone stark crazy and send you off to the madhouse. Hope, his daughter, reached for the mashed potatoes. She sighed. Must have been something else when you were growing up, Dad. Living next to that canal. I wish I'd been there to experience it. You were just a year old when we left, Hope. The canal is long gone, filled in and paved over. They now call it Independence Boulevard. They used to move sugarcane and molasses down that canal in punts pulled by mules. The boys in the neighborhood would jump on a moving punt, lift the hatch and dip her hands in the molasses. It was black and syrupy and steaming hot from the sun. Hope said, that was risky, wasn't it, Dad? Oh, we took lots of risks when we were lads. Swam across the canal and escaped without a bite from the piranha, stole fruits from the planter's garden in the back dam, milked the farmer's cow. And that excerpt ends there. What has happened, of course, is that Money has been sending money from his hard-earned money to Guyana for his sister to build a house on Independence Boulevard. And the idea was for him to return to Guyana to retire. His wife and kids are not going with him. They refused to. And his wife is tired of hearing him go on and on almost every day about returning to Guyana. So on this particular Christmas Day, she's bought him a ticket, an air flight to return to Guyana. And he does. So he's been sending money to his sister, who has supposedly built him his house. She's been sending him grand photographs of this fabulous house she's built in Independence Boulevard. He does go back, but he discovers there is just an empty lot on Independence Boulevard, and his sister is long gone from the country. That's it. Thank you.
So who's been cashing all those checks? All the money he's been sending?
His sister.
So she's taken it and then she's run somewhere else with all the money.
She's left the country.
Wow. I think I disown that sister. I can't
If
wait
you
to
can
get a
find-
copy of that book. It sounds amazing.
If you
Thank
can
you very
find
much.
her. Yeah, thank you.
I think I'm passing it on to you, to my next, to introduce Janet, you're up.
All right, that was great, Ken, and thank you, Lisa. I would now, it is now my honor to introduce the next reader. And it is Steve Prasad from the Bahamas. And Steve, we haven't met before, but I've heard so much about you from our friend and colleague, Robert Lalji, who is in Guyana, having moved back from England. And he was going to join us tonight, but he has had internet problems, you know, from what you call blackout to internet problems. But anyway, I just wanted to mention that it is very nice to meet you here, and we are delighted you are joining us tonight. So it's my pleasure to introduce Steve Prasad to you. And Steve is a poet, an English lecturer, and music teacher, guitar. His poetry has been published in several anthologies and online journals in the Caribbean and the United States. In 2013, Steve won the writing competition held by the QSC, an American audio equipment company. His work has been featured on several radio programs over the years against a background of his instrumental compositions. Steve has also written on music theory, and his treatise, Geometric Patterns, Angles and the Guitar, is soon to be published in Michigan. Steve lives in the Bahamas and he teaches English and music. Welcome, Steve. Let's welcome Steve.
I hope everyone can hear me. Did you hear me?
I can hear you, Steve.
I hear you.
Okay, okay, because I've been having a distorted internet and static mercurial internet connection, whatever you want to call it. It's not good. I'm glad you can hear me. All right, so I'm going to read a short poem. It's called Sisyphean, and it was published in an online journal, Recovering the Self. It's a publication in the US, and it's pretty short. So I want to hear what others have to say, so I'm reading the shortest poem. Okay, it goes like this. And the bloodletting never stops, cast in some form of mathematical anomaly. When I add, I find myself subtracting. My thoughts are divided when I multiply, leaving me with an unsure quotient and a grim reminder of myself. Then I'm placed in a square that thinks it's a rectangle. I try to do battle with a triangle for equal rights, all ending in a Pyrrhic victory. And I, like a captive son, look on with stellar consternation at the maelstrom of discontent, Sisyphean ideals, caught in the crosshairs of a crazed colossal creature. The overture continues with a melody encapsulated in a melody of diminished intervals and a harmony of diminishing returns. Then I have a little footnote. It says, footnotes, there are none. Keep marching though, left, right, left, right. The answer is found in the beat of one's drum. Declaration of war, declaration of peace, or simply one's own declaration. That's my short poem. It's called Sisyphean. It was published in the US. Thank you.
Beautiful.
I'm still, I hope everyone could hear me.
Yes, we can still hear you. Janet, you're on mute.
Yeah, thank you, Steve. That was wonderful.
You can read it.
Declaration of war, declaration of peace. We are in this time now where we need to think a lot more about these thoughts, what's happening. I'd love to read your poem in print, apart from the presentation today. So stay connected, and we will continue on this journey of poetry sharing. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, I would like to now turn to the next reader, Andrew Knight from Toronto. Andrew and I have known each other for several years now. Sometimes we would meet up at the Queen's College alumni literary luncheons. I haven't been to one lately. I don't know if there's any later one coming. Looking out for that. And we also meet up in the community. That is always so enjoyable. Andrew, it is my pleasure to introduce Andrew Knight to you this evening. Andrew attended Queen's College, and he graduated from the University of Guyana Telecommunications Technology course. He immigrated to Canada in 1977. Andrew studied computer technology at Sheridan College here in Oakville, Ontario campus, and he worked in computer electronics. Andrew presently divides his time between his home in Toronto and a lakeside cottage in Haliburton. He's a member of the Mississauga Monarch Lions Club, and Andrew is also a member of the Pakaraima Association. Welcome, Andrew, and over to you.
Thank you, Janet. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So this first poem, entitled Sands of Time, memories of days gone by float through the aging artist's mind as he ponders his life. It was inspired by the COVID lockdown period. I was once so much younger, so handsome, so smart. Did I suddenly grow old? When did sweet youth depart? It was so long ago, now a faint memory. Oh, those happier times, I felt so strong and so free. Foolish things said and done haunt me still night and day. Past lovers long gone, pretty birds flown away. Success was sweet liquor. Drink it up, damn the cost. Now I dwell on my failures and I wrestle with ghosts. All those warm, happy years, they just melted away. Now my time's running out, getting shorter each day. Ask forgiveness of friends. Try to live with more care. Look around, make amends, spread some happiness here. Try to seize every day, smell the perfume of love. Make some pain go away while the sun shines above. This old body is worn like some dried, useless husk, like a sad, empty house slowly turning to dust. The end's coming closer. All my skies turning gray. The grim reaper whispers, "Let me take you away."
Oh,
That was excellent.
Now may I read a second poem?
By all
Okay.
means.
This poem I wrote in 2012, and it is self-explanatory. It's entitled To Janice. Pearly white teeth, bright open face, proud bosom held high, elegance and grace. She stepped out of the crowd and she stood by my side, entranced me with her presence. Oh, sweet, blissful night. 1 hour of magic in a loud, crowded place. I inhaled your perfume and I worshipped your face. Where will this love end? When will it begin? Must I dream on forever of caressing your skin? That magical evening, it ended too soon. You ran to your lover, me my empty room. The brief journey was over and we had to part, but you brought so much sunshine to this sad, lonely heart. You belong to another. Still, my dreams linger on of kissing soft mountains, us together at dawn. I lie here alone now and remember your face. Brief moment to treasure to the end of my days. Thank you.
oh, wow. Thank you,
Yeah.
Andrew.
Excellent, excellent.
Excellent. You know, your first poem, Memories of Old, young, handsome, smart. You're still young, handsome, and smart, Andrew. You're not old. And all the perfume and the happiness. So much really inspiring words that you've offered. Thank you so much.
It was a pleasure.
I have the honor of introducing our next speaker, Tony Dial. Tony has worked in all the English-speaking Caribbean countries for about 25 years. And his weekly newspaper column, which started in 1993, still runs in the Barbados Nation, Jamaica Gleaner, and other publications. He was the first Caribbean recipient of a first-class honors degree in journalism from Carleton University in Ottawa in 1974, and was a Hubert Humphrey Fellow in Planning and Resource Management at Boston University. And he also did message design at Stanford University. Tony started My Trinidad Yesterday, Today, and Tomorrow, the only online literary magazine in the Caribbean. A collection of his articles was published as Tony Dial Was Last Seen. Tony works in health communications, PAHO, climate change, World Bank, CARICOM, and he's the corporate secretary to the West Indies Cricket Board. I should like to welcome Tony to the stage. Tony? Hello, Tony? Is he here? Oh. Is Tony here?
Okay, see me now?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I was working with the Pan American Health Organization, dealing with an issue of getting journalists to be involved in a program for media management of health. And I went to Guyana and I met a journalist and we got along very well. And when I went back to Barbados, we kept in touch. And what I'm going to do is read 2 poems that I had written to her during that period within a couple of days of each other. The first one is called, I Think of You, My Love. I think of you, my love, as the night grows cold and the wind from Africa, India even and beyond roars through my windows open to the Atlantic. And I shiver huddling, hugging myself in despond, but not for long. As the days spent together have caused our beings to converge, and we in wondrous awe explore the boundless rapture of discovery, the thrill of sharing, minds merging on some magic moonlit shore. Perhaps the ancient love gods with karmic force have brought us back once more to earth for purposes unknown. Maybe a second chance to right some wrongs we wrote, an opportunity to gather rosebuds we in the past have sown. Whatever the reason, let us make the most of these golden moments in the sun, finding time and space to grow even closer together, and as one spend these precious years locked forever in sweet embrace. So that's the first one. Second one is called What Love is All About. This is a big man talking, not a boy, boasting about some imagined joy or some mongrel barking in the street. This is me. And my word, my guarantee is as good as Toyota. My warranty is yours forever and a day, my sweet. I never thought in all this life I spent, Scotland really, not that I repent anything, that fate would do this to me. I, who have always run from commitment, fought the closeness of confinement, have found my destiny. Sadhu the psychic, when he read my horoscope, had not said anything, but looked at me funny. I thought the news he had was about something really bad to do with bandits or with money. Not with you. Now looking back, I'm sure if not for his heart attack, I'd have learned the truth. Or he'd have watched me with the Queen of Hearts in hand, as if he'd seen some revelation. She's so cute. He'd tell me, his voice sing-song like a real Bombay Indian who didn't belong to Trinidad at all. This lady will come into your life and love will stab you like a knife and make you bawl. That might be true. But in reflection, it is not the total truth. There's quite a lot more that got left out, like the sparkling golden glow in your eyes, by which I know what love is all about. To my wife, Indrani, thank you.
Wow. Definitely. I was just about to ask you if it was your wife, if this big man who love had stabbed him like a knife, had fallen in love with his
You
wife.
save yourself there tonight.
Does she still have those poems? Does she still have those poems?
Oh,
Like,
yes,
she
we
kept them all
married.
those years? She
We
kept them?
married. She's the mother of two of my children, and she's listening to me right now.
Lucky lady. Those are beautiful, beautiful, beautiful poems.
She is the editor of the Guyana Chronicle when I first met her.
Okay.
Sorry, the news editor of the Guyana Chronicle when I met her.
And how
And
long
now
after you gave her
now
those
she
two
has
poems?
a column in the Stabrook News.
And that's when
with-
you first met her. You wrote that when you first met her.
Yeah,
They're beautiful.
thank you.
So now I'm going to introduce our next person, Franklin. And Franklin Mohan is a retired physician. He lives in Belle River, Ontario. Frank was born in Trinidad and he moved to Canada in 1963 as a teenager. He attended the University of Saskatchewan, taught high school chemistry and biology in Saskatchewan and in British Columbia. And he went to medical school in UWI, Jamaica. He's the author of two books, The Peripatetic Sky and Love Has Two Moon and Other Stories, which I have a copy of right there. Welcome, Frank.
Well, thank you very much. Good night, everyone. Now, Love Has Two Moons and Other Stories is my new book published by Middle Road Publishers, and it's available on Amazon. Now, it consists of one novella and 3 short stories. And the common thread among the stories is that prejudice is fed by ignorance of the humanity of other races. And when the characters become intimately familiar with one another, the way can be paved for mutual respect and acceptance. So I shall read an excerpt from the last story in the book called The Visit, and I will set the scene before I read the excerpt. Now, Lloyd Kaminsky is a farmer in rural Saskatchewan in 1964 who has never seen nor interacted with a non-white person. He has disowned his only daughter for marrying an East Indian boy from Trinidad. He even had a mock funeral for her. After 10 years of estrangement, he has come around through unexpected circumstances. You'd have to read the story to know what those unexpected circumstances are. He has accepted an invitation to attend Laura's 8th birthday party. Laura being in his words, my half-breed granddaughter, whom he has never seen. He has, though, in the past, spied on her from a distance, and in his mind, he has acknowledged his love for her, but through his bullheadedness, he has kept these feelings to himself. So he has arrived in his car at the house, but he can't bring himself to exit the car to enter the house from years of shame, I guess. So little Laura is anxious to meet her grandfather, and she runs out of the house down the walkway towards the car. So here is the exit. Laura was decked out in her lovely pink frilly birthday dress and was made up ever so immaculately. Her long blonde hair was held back by a one-piece headwear hairpin studded with pearls. Her blue-gray eyes reflected bluer in the bright sunlight. "Hi, sir," she addressed Lloyd through the passenger window. "Are you my grandpa?" Lloyd seemed to be taken aback by this pretty cutie and her sweet melodic voice. His hardened heart seemed to melt and become pulpy. Fighting tears, he looked straight ahead and grasped the steering wheel tight-knuckled. He pursed his lips, locking his true emotions. He didn't respond. "Sir, Mr. Kaminsky, Grandpa, please say something," Laura said. Just then, Laura, to my consternation, decided to leave the sidewalk and go around to the traffic side of the car close to the driver's window with oncoming cars zooming by. Lloyd was startled. He shouted, "Laura, honey, stay. Don't come to this side. Stay there. Get back." He swiftly exited over the passenger seat to the right. But when he jumped onto the sidewalk to go after Laura, his right foot set down unevenly on the concrete edge of the sidewalk and he twisted his ankle. He fell down and abraded his knee. Seen below his pants, the rent in the skin was superficial, but because he was on blood thinners, it bled profusely. Laura, startled by the bleeding knee, ran up to him, grabbed his arm, and attempted to help him up. Lloyd stood up, and Laura knelt down and administered the only treatment she knew. She kissed his knee, his bleeding knee, better. She looked up, and her pink lips covered with blood, and crying, she said, "Does that feel better, Mr. Kaminsky?" Lloyd dissolved into tears. "Don't call me Mr., it's Grandpa. Call me Grandpa." And with that, he lifted her off the ground and hugged her tightly with his eyes wrinkled close, his eyelids drawn and puckered like a purse string as he tried to hold back more tears. So that's just an excerpt from that.
That was beautiful. Is there any truth in that story?
No, it's fictional, but it's based on true happenings that I've noticed over the years. And in fact, I told Ken Puddicombe when I wrote that part, even though it was fictional, I had a little lump in my throat.
That was excellent. I want to hear more of the story. Lucky, I have the book.
Oh, okay.
Thank you very, very much. That was amazing. Okay, I think Janet, no, I think it's Habib. And I actually saw Habib. Habib? I saw you a minute ago.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Thank you, Frank. That was lovely.
I don't know.
Thank you.
You'll have to come back again and read another chapter next time. Okay, Habib, it's up to you. You're on now. I don't know where you are.
Can you do somebody else? I'll have to find a spot to stop.
Oh, are you driving?
Yeah.
What? Habib. Well, okay. Who are we doing next? Okay, so I'll introduce Mohammed. Are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, so I will introduce you. Mohammed has published 2 children's books and a poetry. Would you like to be called? Is Miss Mohammed? I see your name is a different name there. Is Mohammed?
Yeah, Mohammed is the first name. Farhad, you could call me also. It's fine.
Okay, so I didn't know which one, and I thought, oh, maybe I'm not calling you by the correct name. He's published 2 children's books and a poetry anthology entitled Whispers of Faith. While in Guyana, he commenced a teaching career at a local high school that he attended, and he later migrated to Toronto, where he's worked for the past 30 years as an information management professional. He continues to teach part-time. He's a founder of Masjid, a central mosque in downtown Toronto, and he's a founding director of the Islamic Institute of Toronto, where he serves as chair of the board and the director of education. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, and this is an excellent forum. I'm honored to be part of it. The poem I'm going to read, yeah, thank you. I wrote this poem about 2 years ago when my father was still alive, and my mom is still alive, but my father passed 2 years ago. And so I used to be going there on a regular basis. So I kind of wrote this poem mostly for my mom and for those other mothers, all the mothers who are out there. And it's entitled Na Fatigue. And you will find a few Creolese language in this. So if you don't understand, then maybe I can check it out later. So here's how it goes. Time to drive again across the city. See her eyes light up. Feel her wrinkled hands on my face. A kiss on each cheek, a feeble embrace. Boy, look how you get gray. We catch up on old times and people who died, who's in hospital, who recently got married or divorced. It's like my weekly inbox from another world. I bring roti, white and brown, different ailments, different needs. Next time I say, I'll bring fried plantain, maybe some fish. Not fatigue, she says. It's her common refrain. Fatigue? What irony. Images flash through my mind. 10 little mouths to feed, and then some. Kids around the neighborhood, barefoot, hungry. Eddie, my best friend, Liston or some other beggar, always a full house. And she, in front of the fireside, all day long, pot, fire, and smoke, and sometimes tears. If we're lucky, yard fowl caught and slaughtered, dipped in boiling water, feathers plucked and roasted, or just some greens from the garden, poi or pak choy, bora or baigan, fish tossed in just for taste. Not fatigue, you say? How about those long days away from home, at the back dam, back-breaking work, rice field, tractor, combine, needle and twine, hands busy as ever, stitching rice bags, counting 1, 2, beyond 100, and it's all smiles as the sun goes down, the cool night and the numbers ease the aching shoulders. Long walks with overweight boxes on your head, cushioned with your romal, green bananas, cassava, cucumber, pregnant but proud. Life's just got better. Raft built with a plantain stack and dead wood, stashed together with vines. No tripping anymore on those annoying tree roots. A queen on the Nile, oblivious to the lazy crocodiles snoozing nearby. Na fatigue. My album of distant memories refreshed, digitized for another generation. To marvel and dream of tractors and snakes, muddy roads and makeshift rafts, and of people with weather-worn faces and wrinkled hands who wrote their destinies with labor and with love. Thank you.
That's beautiful. So,
Wow.
yeah, you know, mothers, you're true. Warm embrace, food, love. You mentioned 10 children, you're feeding mouths of them and then the neighborhoods. Pregnant, but
Yeah.
still going at it. It was
Yeah.
that was amazing. So that was true, I assume.
Yeah, oh yeah, she was pregnant with me. And
Wow.
on the rice
And there were 10
field.
other mouths to feed.
And there were 10 other mouths to feed, yes.
And the neighbors and
Yeah, and that's
never
not a
ending.
unique.
And then she's always there
No.
at the pot. I can imagine that.
Yeah, and that's not a unique story. So it's, you know, it's written for all mothers, even here in Canada.
I
The
only have 3.
environment
I know what it's like.
might be different, but you know,
It's the same.
yeah,
Mothers do continue to work.
yeah. If you have time, I have one more. I don't know if
Absolutely.
you have time. Yeah. So this one is sort of for mental health, and it's called a place called darkness.
Oh, nice title.
There's a place called darkness where despair lingers and hope is neither a word nor a feeling, where loneliness overcomes even in the midst of company, and dreams are crushed by the weight of hopelessness, where past joys are distant specks veiled by the passage of time, and time itself seems imprisoned by a gridlock of painful memories, where the air suffocates with every breath, and thoughts of death and dying drift in and out unrestrained. There's a place called darkness where the staircases spiral down to depths of anguish. I've seen this place before, albeit from afar. From the edges of sanity, struggle to hold my ground and not be pulled in the vortex of unimaginable grief. I've seen some brave souls fight with their life and dignity, overcome one step at a time, holding out hope, even in its seeming impossibility. Lift their heads a wee bit, enough to glimpse the sky and stars above, and allow even a sliver of light to filter through. Hold on to elusive pillars for support, and reach down their conscious beings to draw out a memory or two, or some chance encounter, a smile, a nod of encouragement, and reach beyond the walls of that dark place to find a helping hand, eager to pull them out, up and out, and the light of faith begins to spread, and the heart starts beating again, knowing that love had never left. Thank you.
That's such an apt description of depression, and
Yeah.
Yeah, very well written.
Thank you.
And you read very well as well too.
Thank you.
Now, I don't think Robert was able to join us. Is that right? Janet, are you there?
He's not able to join us next
Okay,
time.
so
Oh, sorry.
should I do the next bit, or do you want to do the next bit for Shirley? Well, I would do Habib, but I don't. Habib, are you available to talk yet? Hello, Habib. Have you pulled over somewhere safely?
No.
What was that?
Not as yet.
Okay, because you're up.
You have
Shall
a
I do
poem,
the-
Habib?
Shall I do the vote of thanks?
That's why I want to know.
Well, we're waiting to hear back if Habib will,
Because Habib
well,
has Habib,
Go
are
ahead,
you gonna
Shirley.
read?
Go
Habib,
ahead.
are you gonna read
go ahead.
tonight?
Okay, let me take the opportunity then to introduce Shirley.
Okay.
Actually, you know what, Lisa, you go ahead.
Okay. Shirley emigrated from Guyana to England and later to Canada, and she worked as an early childhood educator and a family life educator. She published her first children's book, Layers of the Rainforest. Shirley is the executive director of Pakaraima Association, and she's going to do our vote of thanks today.
Good evening to all of you, respected ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of Pakaraima, it gives me immense pleasure to deliver the vote of thanks. Thank you all for taking time out of your busy schedule to attend our One Guyana Vibes event. I extend a huge thank you to all the readers this evening from Canada, US, Bahamas, Trinidad and Tobago. It was wonderful listening to all the varieties of your writings. I'm sure everyone will agree with me that your readings were most enjoyable. We appreciate you all. I want to thank Habib Ali, our awesome president, for keeping Pakaraima going and for being instrumental in keeping us connected virtually so we can share the works of poets and writers. My very special thanks to Janet Naidu, our founder and past president, for your ongoing dedication to also keep Pakaraima going and to continue to contribute to the success of our association. Great recognition, and thank you, Lisa, for your hard work and for being instrumental in helping to organize and prepare for our One Guyana Vibes program this evening. And finally, thanks to the MCs, Lisa and Janet, for an enjoyable evening. Good evening and stay safe.
Thank you very much, Shirley. I have a few last words here. I'd just like to add that if anybody wants copies of any of the books that were referred to tonight, or you have you'd like to contact any of the readers, or you have any related questions, I will type it in a minute, but into the chat. But please email me at, I'm going to say it out loud, Lisa, Lisa, at Lisa-Writes, WRITES.ca. I will write it in the chat in a few minutes. And if you email me there, I'll do my best to get you any relevant information that you need in a timely manner. I'd also like to just say a very quick thank you to Fazil Hussein, who facilitated the Zoom, and he's also recording this event, I believe, and to Fawaz, who created that beautiful poster that we all saw. So thank you, good evening, and good night. And would you like to continue and say anything, a few words while I type this in? Janet?
Yeah, well, you know what, it was a wonderful evening. We have got some really positive feedback in the chat. I was checking them, you know, comments made about the poems and the evening itself. So, and I'm delighted to see the number of people who've, you know, attended this evening. And we hope to have another event sometime down the road, whenever. Once again, thank you. Anything else, Lisa and Shirley?
I think we're done. Thank you all very much. I don't
Did
think,
Habib make his way upstairs too?
I'm not sure. Habib, where are you?
Still parking.
It's okay. I want to say thanks to everyone. I want to say thank you to everybody. And I wrote a poem about one Guyana. I can't read it right now, but on Saturday, I'm extending an invitation. The Guyana Consulate is doing an observance of Republic Day downtown in Metro Hall, and I'll be sharing that poem on one Guyana. And secondly, today I learned about Wilson Harris. I didn't know if Janet spoke about him, but I would like again to reiterate tonight's tribute to Wilson Harris, one of the greatest poets and essayists that came out of Guyana after World War II in England. And thank you, everybody. Have a good night.
Thank you. Have a good night, everyone.